You mentioned assessment. Is that tying into the certified role-based assessment consultant that you
Yeah.
have? What is that? I've not heard of that.
Yeah, sure. Well, there's a company, it's a business called the Gabriel Institute.
Mm-hmm.
And the people behind it have been psychologists studying people's workplace behaviors for
Mm-hmm.
3 decades.
Mm-hmm.
And what they came up with is a process by which you can evaluate people in terms of how they fit on a team. The University of Pennsylvania has reviewed this and said it's legally defensible. And it's really replaced Myers-Briggs and a lot of those other tests that have been around since the 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
Because what this does is it looks at people's role, and it breaks people down into one of 8 or 9 categories. There's vision formers, there's vision movers, there's action planners. There are people who would be the scout, would be the salesperson, would be the founder.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a team that has all people that are the person who would be a salesperson, you're not filling out all the features. So as we hire for companies, we like to hire for skill and experience, but also fit, and then the teams are much more cohesive. So this Gabriel Institute allows us to do that, and went through the assessment and been helping companies do this for some time now, it's really helped in terms of talent.
At the start of the show, we were talking about what we think the outlook is for the next year or so. From your perch, from your perspective, how do you feel about the economy in 2010 and beyond?
We've seen a turnaround in the past 3 months since the summer, and companies that have really, really begun to accelerate. I wouldn't say we're back to 2007 levels, but the companies that we're working with have really picked up. I think 2010 will be a very strong year, especially for companies who take the time to line their ducks up, get the proper management team, do their planning, are in the right market, and then execute. And companies who are making excuses or hiding won't succeed. I think it'll be quicker that those will be winnowed out. But the companies with good products, the companies with good teams that plan, that execute, and that are constantly looking at their strategy, I'm confident they'll succeed. And in each of these economies, the best time to start a business, if you look back, has been during these times.
Right.
Look at the companies that have started during the recession of '82 or the Depression, and those companies became huge.
Yeah. Well, John Templeton is my favorite investment advisor, and John Templeton used to say that every 30 or 40 years you have one of these 40% disasters in the markets, but it's actually healthy. You identify who the crooks are and the incompetent managers, and the people that emerge from that are stronger and gain market share faster, and the market goes up for them even faster than it would have without that occasion. It's hard to appreciate any good news as it's happening, but I think that's what we're about to witness.
I see that too. Back at a publishing company during the recession 20 years ago, and our competitor hid, and we kept pressing forward, and when the economy came back, rapid expansion.
And what are some of the waves you see in some of the new company development, if you will, that look like going forward 5 years, 10 years out will be, huge new industries or larger industries than they are today?
Again, I mean, I think that a big part of it's going to be energy focused. A lot of companies that we're seeing plans for now are energy-based companies, ones that'll deal with technology that will help lower cost of energy. Clearly, people will be concerned about that, and that's a trend that's not going to go away. I think under hospital and healthcare containment, companies that can help lower costs, again, because of what's happening legislatively. And still, I think a couple of companies I've been involved with are marketing and technology related to the internet. And those companies also will be successful. And the last piece I would say would be software companies. Again, such great opportunities to help facilitate productivity, improvements, connectivity. It could be a Twitter company, it could be a company that allows communication or networking, or a tool to help productivity.
I'd like to revisit an earlier discussion about how much of the business is retained by the entrepreneur. It seems to me one of the ways that they can really retain more is if they show that they're managing their cash burn very well and give confidence to the investor that there will be milestones where the investor will not have to, if they think $2 million is going to be needed, but there are milestones at 250 and at 600,000, then they might be able to retain more of the business.
Exactly. We recently helped a company with some funding from a VC. And there was a couple different ways to go about it. And the venture capitalist was happier saying, you know what, we'll put in $200,000. We're not going to go past that.
Yeah.
If you get revenue to increase greatly, if you can show that you're starting to have sales that are material, you're bringing on talent, you're getting traction, we'll put the next 100,000 in. If not, we won't. So in so doing, the venture capitalists lowered their risk. It forced the company to be a little bit more mature, a little bit more responsible, a little bit more adult, which I think is a good thing. You know, I mean, many entrepreneurs think their company has to ramp instantly. Some it's true. This technology company, it really was. There was a window, but most it's not. And having discipline and focus can really help the company succeed in the long term.
Do you find that you end up being the referee at that milestone point to decide, well, they didn't quite hit the goal, but give them this much more and that sort of thing?
At times I do. We do work at times for Ben Franklin Technology Partners.
Right.
And so we might give them suggestions. They have us do due diligence for companies, in which case we're on that side of the table. At other times we represent the company. I won't exactly say I'm the referee because I'm usually on one side or the other.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
Do you also provide performance coaching?
We do. So we'll go into a company where the performance might center around the sales department or the operations or even the CEO. So we often work with C-level team, and they'll come in and say, listen, we're not going to hit this benchmark. We're not going to hit this target. What do we do? And we'll sit down and figure out why we're not going to hit it. Did the market shift, or did we not implement the right team? Did we not deliver the product? And you find out, well, the software delivery fell behind and we weren't on top of it. So we'll often work with clients and say, listen, let's meet the first of each month. Let's figure out what the deliverables are, and you can have someone help you make sure that you hit these targets. Because oftentimes these companies, they don't have a board of directors, they don't have advisors. Sometimes they've done these businesses repeatedly and they need someone to help on the side. Other times they're new entrepreneurs, and you're taking them and helping them take their business and develop it.
What is your mix of companies that work internally in the U.S. and those that work overseas, and what are some of the finer points that differentiate the two types of companies?
Well, so I'd say that the vast majority of ours are domestic.
Okay.
The ones that do business overseas tend to be our software clients.
Okay.
Insurance company that has software, they apply it to the back end of insurance businesses. They have some overseas exposure. We have a couple publishing clients that have subscribers overseas. And in terms of that, there's a lot of growth internationally. I think that hitting the BRIC and hitting the overseas countries in China and Russia and India will be a lot of growth as well.
Yeah.
And for your services, just to revisit the pricing, you said your time and materials, so there's no success fee?
Well, it depends. I mean, we have we like to work in what fits for the client and for the project. So we'll often do value-based, and we'll say the client needs, we'll find out what their needs are and what that's worth to them. And something that's fair, it might be a flat fixed fee. There's other projects where we'll do it hourly because the client has ongoing various needs. And the last piece is if we help a company get funded or have material savings, we might have as an incentive to us a minor piece of that as well. And it actually helps us, obviously, and to a greater extent, though, it helps the client because our interest is in aligning with them over the long term. We're not interested in short, quick fees. Like I said, we're happy to start out on a modest basis and align our interest because we've succeeded over 10 years, since 1999, by growing the companies and by consistently delivering good results.
And how many people are in the entrepreneurial consulting practice you have?
There's 4 of us. It's myself, 3 associates. 3 of the 4 of us are Wharton people, and one is not. And we like to meet the client's needs. And as we need to expand, we have outside resources. I'm a member of the Institute of Management Consultants, certified through them. Get a lot of talent as well for them through different projects.
So the good news is if they hire entrepreneurial consulting, they're going to get your expertise in addition to your teammates' expertise. So they're really going to get to talk to the expert.
Exactly. And what's nice is as clients and as businesses grow, there's times they need to quickly add help. There's times that wanes. And it's a lot easier. Instead of bringing on a full-time COO or chief marketing officer, we can come in and help them as needed.
In just 30 seconds or so, I'm curious whether you have piracy issues in the kind of business you deal with, and if you have to get involved with that sort of thing. That would be very frustrating, it seems to me.
On the software side?
Yes.
You know, I guess because our applications have been more corporate level as opposed to consumer software, that hasn't happened yet. It hasn't been a risk. So I guess as we deal with, we had one client that was consumer software, and they were a little bit worried about that, and it was in the music industry. And they eventually, they were worried.
Yeah.
They eventually licensed it more as a website where you paid per visit, and that was the way of getting around that.
Well, Adam, thank you so much for being on our show. We look forward to having you back again to give us some updates about some of these businesses that you've been helping and also maybe some opportunities locally for some of our viewers. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Our next guest will be Michael Carwick.